After half a year waiting in reservations, finally my Steam Deck is here, and boy what time I've been having with it! You can play games everywhere, at your desk, in your bed, at the big screen, or even on the run.
Don't come near me!
But what's more important is that you can experience the same PC games you'd always have. Say for example the original Heroes of Might and Magic 3, Crisis Remaster, or bore yourself to death by grinding endlessly in space sims like Elite Dangerous. Hell, you don't even need to stick with PC games. Emulation opens the doors for a lot wider game selection. For example, a PlayStation 2 version of Underground 1, or even a dinosaur like Lion King. Upon further investigation, this game's shit! There are no limitations, right there in your pocket. Well, almost. But if you're that kind of a weirdo and think that gaming is for children, well then, you can do accounting on it too.
Kill me, please!
I genuinely didn't expect to love Steamdeck as much as I do, but the first week I got it,
After half a year of waiting in reservations,
I opened it up, I booted it on and started downloading all sorts of games. And as it happens, all of the games that vastly are different in age and architecture, all of them ran perfectly on Steam Deck. Even Crisis 1, which doesn't work on PC, and it perfectly didn't work on Steam Deck. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this device, it runs SteamOS, but at the bottom level, it is like any other computer. It can do exactly the same things because guess what? The SteamOS is a Debian 8 version, Valve's developed Linux operating system, a fully fledged desktop operating system, not a lockdown, cut down version that peasant boxes enjoy. But that doesn't really matter to most people. Some even scoff at this. I mean, why would you want something as bloated as Windows on this? So, what matters really is the selection of games and how it feels. Now, clearly this is a Steam-based device, or rather it runs Steam in its name after all. So, how many games does it even run from the Steam's library? Well, as it happens, about 6,000 currently are reported by Valve, but I found it to be more of a pirate code than a real rule. But how does a majority of PC games sound to you like? For example, a game that I recently reviewed, the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the original, the real one, well, it runs just fine. Even though it's listed as unsupported. Yes, it needs reconfiguring for controls, but other than that, it's fantastic. So at that point I thought, well, what the hell can I put on the deck that would just simply not run on this Linux version? Well, I started out with Heroes of Might and Magic 3. I copied a folder and it runs. It runs just perfectly. Just copy paste the folder, done.
And at that point, it turned into morbid curiosity.
What can I put on the Steam Deck that just simply would not run? Warcraft 3, Unreal Tournament 1, both running perfectly. Underground 2, no, it just runs. It runs perfectly, except for the fact that it runs at 90 degrees tilted screen and... And then finally I thought, okay, well there has to be one game that I know of that is really bad. Spaghetti code and all. And then I remembered. Arma 2. What is this magic? Well then, let's take a closer look at the deck. Well, as a mobile device, obviously you can use it on the go or anywhere you really like. Specifically, the most important mobile gaming place.
don't judge. You'd be using your phone right about now.
So clearly the battery life is good enough for that kind of a gaming, but yeah, that's not always true also. See, the most demanding games will manage to suck out the battery dry at most in about an hour and a half. However, if you tune it, if you tweak it a little bit and so on, you can manage actually on the least demanding games to get, well, actually 8 hours and more even sometimes if you really try. Though most of the time expect about 4 to 5 hours of playtime, and that's perfectly good for morning and evening commute. While at work or home you can always charge up and it will charge while you're playing. And that's quite acceptable. Now what is more acceptable is that the deck has a headphone jack. Thanks Apple, by the way. Now, other hardware specs include the buttons, which honestly feel really good for a device like this. The only problem I had was with the joysticks, and well, pressing them always in felt like I would be snapping them in half at some point if I do it a bit too much, compared to something like, let's say, PlayStation 5 controller. And then there are the back buttons. Honestly speaking, they're kind of weird. At first you don't really know how to use them, but once you get used to them, it's alright. The problem with those buttons specifically is that, yes, you're gonna have to rummage around in the settings to remap them. Now, as for the screen itself, well, according to my creator peers, like say Linus Tech Tips, who mentions that the screen can really go dim if you really want to, and stay bright enough to be playable overall. However, on the lowest setting for the brightness, the dimmest one, I honestly wanted to spoon out my eyes, but that's my own personal take, of course, so each to its own. And then of course the screen itself is a touch screen, which works and it has an experience, we'll talk about that in just a bit. But as for the triggers, well, for a device like this, they're actually really good. The shoulders are nice and all, but compared to a dedicated controller, yeah, there are some exceptions, shall we say. But overall, for a device like this, these are as good as they could be. However, for a device like this, and Valve admits this freely, the rumble is horrible, and yes, at the highest setting, you're barely gonna feel it. In fact, it's so minimal that I honestly don't think that it often exists. Yet out of all portable devices that I've touched over the years inappropriately, Steamdeck's audio is just exemplary. And no wonder, coming from Valve Index, which had also exemplary audio, we can see Valve has actually implemented that here too. And then there's gyro control. I don't know, there's just something about it. It felt like a gimmick, really, like veganism. But unlike veganism, actually using this with Modern Warfare 2 gameplay, I realized that it actually was a better way to aim, and I realized I wanted this, the gyro control, on every controller out there. Why aren't they using it? And then there's another feature that I want on every controller from now on, and that is the touchpads. Yes, coming from Steamdeck, which I personally thought that was the best controller in the world. Yes, I might be fucked in the head to think that, but regardless, the point is, with many games, like for example Faster Than Light and others that use mouse controls more so, touchpad really comes in handy so much. And when it's in the desktop mode, boy oh boy, the touchpad is a blessing. Now, what makes Steamdeck so much more versatile is the fact that you can remap every single button out there. On the deck, whatever you want it to be, it can be there. You thought that the new God of War Ragnarok was so good with its accessibility, allowing to remap every button? Well, get the fuck out of here. This can do far more. In fact, you can actually share the profiles between games with the community, or download profiles that others have made. It's amazing! And under the bonnet, as Brits would say, there's a Ryzen CPU with 4 cores, 8 threads, and RDNA APU built in, with 16 gigs of low-power DDR RAM. And to most people, that sounds like a construction code for a lamppost. Instead, let me just introduce you to my VR PC. This thing I built out of little things that were laying around. Overall, it's some new, some old, but regardless, the point is, it's about the same price as the Steamdeck. So, how does it fare in benchmarks? Well, the Steamdeck in heaven benchmark for the GPU, well, it got pummeled twice over. And as for the CPU benchmarks like Cinebench, yeah, it fared a little bit better, but even so, it just could not beat this thing. However, what's the lesson? Lesson? All right. To put it in the most simplest possible terms, Steamdeck is about the same power as a base level PlayStation 4. And if you want the most bang for your buck, well, this is gonna be it. However, if you want the mobile device that can do far more than just gaming, well, Steam Deck is it. So, how about those performance benchmarks? Well, I collected a couple of them, and as it happens, no, you're not going to be running any of the high-end games on the highest quality levels, but it's an 800p screen, why would you? But even so, when you can run them, most of the time you're going to be running them on about 60 frames a second. Lowest settings, but even so.
Well, except for Elite Dangerous Odyssey, the unoptimized garbage.
And thanks to such technology as FSR, Steam Deck can truly stretch its legs. Though for more benchmarks and other things, I will defer to my creator peers. But while I might be joking around with Elite Dangerous there a little bit, the game that I'm most known for, the only thing that really fails for it is the Odyssey, and for obvious reasons. The rest of the game, like the base game, actually runs really well, and thanks to great controller support. It's an excellent experience. Still, don't think that everything's sunshine and rainbows, cause I did encounter a few games that just refuse to do what they are told. Crash Day Redline Edition, for example, didn't have sound. Batman Arkham Knight, for the first time, ran perfectly and detected controls, everything nice, but the next day, as I loaded up, just refused to recognize the joysticks and everything. MSI Combustor Stress Test produced artifacts despite running on OpenGL, while Shadow of Tomb Raider outright didn't even start.
This works. God damn it. Didn't expect that. No, never mind.
So no matter how good emulation or translation layer Valve has made for the Steam Deck, well, not everything will work for this malformed Arctic chicken. And yet, when one thing fails, another one opens its door. As a matter of fact, Crysis Remaster and Cyberpunk, I did not run from the Steam. I ran it from the Heroic Launcher. One was from the Epic Games, other one from GOG. And as a matter of fact, I managed to run them both because of Wine, not the Proton. For those who don't understand, that's basically another way of emulating Windows nonsense.
Even worse, Steam Deck runs, barely launches, Star Citizen, the gaming world's equivalent of golden diamond crusted torn condom, on fire. Really, no matter how you look at this should not be possible. Mostly because Star Citizen is shit.
And this is why Steam Deck is so cool. You're not locked into some sort of an ecosystem or walled garden. Yes, there will be bugs and glitches. It's not gonna be quite a plug-and-play experience like you would expect on the peasant boxes, but even so, what you gain instead is just versatility, flexibility, variety that just completely outmatches and overshadows anything that is on the market right now.
Well then fuck Linux, I don't want it. I want Windows, but it can't do it because it's a Linux machine. Ha! Checkmate!
Ha! Didn't you listen? This is a normal PC. You can load up whatever operating system you want to, even Windows and whatnot else. It does have drivers which might have some problems here and there, but apparently it's better than it was on the launch, but even so. The point is, you can load up the Windows with the Windows version of the game and run it as a Windows PC. And the performance, well, according to my creator peers, it's a hit and miss. Sometimes it's better on the Linux, sometimes better on the Windows. So yeah, generally speaking, you're still going to be running the games on approximately 40 to 50, 60 frames a second on the higher end game. And for the rest of them, you won't need to worry about that.
Unless it's Elite Odyssey, damn it!
And yet, I still have not mentioned one more thing, a rather interesting thing. Why stop at the PC games? What about emulation? Yes, I hinted at this before, but the same emulators you can run on your PC, you can run on Steam Deck, because it is a normal PC. Well, relatively speaking, but still, even though I might not be the biggest fan of the really old garbage. God damn it, jump you shit! Even these lockdown walled gardens of historic paperweights can be run on the Steam Deck. You can even argue because of its capacity and its usability, it is the best retro gaming device yet. Even if Nintendo, the fucking pricks of the gaming industry, will DMCA anyone showcasing Nintendo software running on a Steam Deck, abusing the system, thinking that their corporate asses are above the law. So you'd almost be morally justified by pirating their games or entire catalog. But no, please understand that I do not condone piracy, obviously. Despite how horrible Nintendo is, don't do it. Okay? But returning to emulation or just ultimately gaming on the Steam Deck, you're not locked in on the PC games that are running on the Steam. You're not locked in on the PC games as a whole. But the best part is, again, it is a PC. So you can literally just watch TV or watch anything on YouTube on the big screen if you connect it through USB-C. SteamOS gives you the option to also enter the desktop mode where the full operating system and its quirks rear their heads. So, gaming in desktop mode offers rather cumbersome way of remapping keys. There is no Steam overlay that would allow you to control refresh rate and other things on the go. On another note, you can't enter the desktop mode without exiting the family mode. Thanks. Without the Steam running, the only functional button is the touchscreen. I shit you not. If a game or application crashes, well, good luck on fucking the situation without one of these. And most of all, the on-screen keyboard is god-awful. Seriously, it's weird that one of these from 10 years ago could outmatch what Steam Deck is capable now with the touchscreen, or the way the touchscreen keyboard works. Oh, and inputting text with one of these, well, it's an experience and I'll leave it at that. Let's talk about those USB-C dongles. Well, this one I bought on Amazon for about 40 bucks. An Ethernet jack, HDMI port, couple of other little things that, you know, overall is a decent selection. So, the problem here is that Valve has recently started selling their own deck dock. Yes, the name is pretty questionable, but regardless, so it has a few more additional things that this one would not have. So, understandably, yeah, you would pay a little bit extra for it. However, the price was a bit odd. You see, yes, it has DisplayPort, but when I looked in Amazon for a dongle that would have about the same functionality or even more, well, the prices were about 60 to 70 bucks. So the question from me is the stand capability really worth the 30 bucks that Valve is putting on it? Yes, the build quality probably is gonna be better, so okay, let's say 20 bucks for standing capability. You know, what I find really hard to do is this. The funny thing about the dongle is it really does not enable any new special for deck functionality, other than what this can do as well. Now then, well, if we talk about docking... Oh god, please don't Google that! Now, let's take for example something like Nintendo Switch and its capability, shall we say. See, Steam Deck doesn't really have that Bluetooth connectivity, transmission with the TV capability, functionality, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, it's kind of a bummer. Now, I didn't really think about it until a friend of mine actually pointed it out, and all I want to do now is just sit on the couch and shoot my deck frames onto my TV screen. Cable docking it is then. Well, in desktop mode, as you can see, you can actually put whatever way you want the dock and the external monitor to work. However, in gaming mode, you attach another screen and boom, the new monitor now owns it like some sort of a captive BDSM slide. There's no picture on the Steam Deck at all. And yet, weirdly, the touchscreen, there we go, it still works, which is just odd. Additionally, another odd thing is that this is an upscaled image, not a resolution for the native screen. You can actually see this here because Steam Deck is 16 by 10 and this screen is 16 by 9. And the worst part is you can't change these modes either. You only have a choice of just upscaling and whether or not to transmit the audio as well to the screen, and that's all you get for the gaming mode. So compared to the desktop mode, honestly, very lacking.
Also, if you wondered if Steam Deck could run 4K, well, yes, poorly.
Still, in the desktop mode, SteamOS uses Dolphin as the UI for file management, and honestly, it's such a piece of shit. I want to kill all flippers. So basically, you open up Firefox and download a file. Then you want to open the folder in which that file exists. You click on the button and nothing. The penguin and the flippers says fuck you.
No way it opened. Oh, come on! Now it does work.
Yep, that's Linux for you. Even with these annoyances, it still surprises me how usable this Linux version for a Windows pleb like myself is. Well, that is until you want to do something more complex, and in which case you can go and enjoy the command line bullshit. Open the terminal and write in the spell abracadabra, fuck yourself, penguin! Still, there is one question that you need to answer. Why buy a Steam Deck when there's a perfectly capable device that doesn't need to go with a Windows or Linux and its drivers and is already usable, like for example, Switch? Well, because of Nintendo! Oh, and also walled gardens. Well, okay, but then what about, say, GPD Win, or for example, Ion Neon, devices like those, right? Well, the answer to that is $450. That's the price of the cheapest Steam Deck. Yes, it has a low amount of memory, but the SD cards don't really cost that much, and yes, you're gonna have a really nice deck overall. And the performance is gonna be the same as with the most expensive deck. The difference between the versions is really just the screen coating and the memory inside. And the performance doesn't change, which is just the biggest selling point added with the price. But what's more important about this is that this device is made more of an open thing for customers. Yes, technically Valve is not advertising you should be opening it and changing it, but if you want to, you can. If some parts break, you can actually order the parts and change it yourself. So that's just a wonderful thing, and the software as well. You can do whatever you want with it. Now I know I'm rambling already, but the point is, this device alone not only is a just great value, but also the greatest boon for Linux gaming and for open standards overall. But let's be frank, the device is not exactly perfect either. Specifically the touch input, if you will, is pretty horrible. The desktop mode is questionable, so in many places there are lots of little things that just you wouldn't see even on 10-year-old tablets. So yeah, it's basically a first-gen product. But even so, it's a wonderfully executed first-gen product, and Valve is saying that they will be doing, potentially, a Steam Deck 2. And after the success that this has, honestly, I'm absolutely looking forward to it. And yeah, it's only gonna get better. And indeed, thanks to it, the Linux gaming overall will improve. So that's fantastic. Love it! So there you go. Big thanks for watching. Of course, I'm gonna go now and play it a little bit more, but regardless, of course, as always, in the end of the reviews, I do always mention that if you want to support the content that I make here, well, always do check out the Patreon and other useful links down below, especially for the patrons, you know, all the supporters, YouTube members. I'll be doing a commentary track for making this review. It's been quite hard already. I'm not done actually filming all of it, but regardless, we'll see about that, how it always turns out, right? So, do check out those useful links. I'll see you then next time.